My name is Jim Ramsey. I'm in the Marriage and Family Therapy course at Texas A&M Central, University of Central Texas. Wow, I think it's first important with a question like that to define the terms so that we can have a common understanding of what it is that I'm talking about and what you're talking about, what anybody's talking about. So when we talk about family diversity issues, it can be defined in a number of ways, but I tend to think primarily in terms of, as we found out in our reading from Froma Walsh in her book, Normal Family Processes, she says, a broad spectrum of normal families. Okay, well, what does that mean? Well, I may not agree with all of her views on what that means, but I do like a lot of the ways she articulates this. I think it is important to note the various ways that can make up the broad spectrum of family experiences. So these are, according to her writing, a varied type of family forms, which, if you could think about it, what does that mean? It means, you think of a family, you might think of mom, dad, kids, right? In America, it's mom, dad, 2.5 kids, whatever the 0.5 is, right? But we got to think of what is the family to that family, could be mom, dad, uncle, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, mom, dad, kids with grandma, mom with grandma. I mean, the permutations are almost endless, right? So it's very important that we think of the varied family forms and not just think of family as the nuclear family. And second, she also talks about varied gender roles in relationships, and she talks at length about how this has changed over time in different eras, and most recently in the last several decades, how we've had a very differing idea and concept of what gender roles are. It's not just the man is the breadwinner and the woman stays home, takes care of the house and children, and that's the way it is. Now we have two dual earner income families. We have husbands taking on more of a role of parenting. We have and housework and things of this nature. We have different ways that different families work that out, and so there's a varied way that these roles and these relationships work in the family. And also we need to think about the growing cultural diversity. As our diversity in our nation continues to increase, we're going to see that as well in our families. And we're seeing that with different, multicultural, multi-ethnic people marrying outside of all kinds of former boundaries, and not just economic, social, ethnic, gender, all kinds of different ways that people are considering themselves family. And then also increasing socioeconomic disparity, how economics or the problems of poverty and privilege shape how families not only are formed, how they stay together, how they grow apart, what are the dynamics that play in, the economic factors that play into the family. Okay, so having a sensitivity to these issues first means that I'm aware of these issues and that I have a genuine concern, a great deal of respect for the dignity of every person that comes to me for care. So this requires an openness for me to meet with and to learn who the people are and what their family is and what in their context. I could be aware and not be concerned, and I can also be unaware and not concerned. But the most important thing is that I'm concerned for other people's well-being, and then I think it's important to also be sensitive and trained in knowing what these issues are. Having a sensitivity to these issues first means that I'm aware, number one, that these issues are real and that they exist. And that I also, number two, have a great deal of respect for the dignity of every person entering my office for care. Okay, so I could be aware and not care about people. I could be unaware and yet still care about people. So it's very important that I both be aware and have a genuine concern for other people coming to me for my care. So this requires an openness to meet with and to learn who the people are that are coming to me and what the family is in their context and how they define that. Okay, a sensitivity for family diversity issues frankly comes from my personal view of value and dignity of human beings as being created in the image of God. You know, people are valuable, and because people are valuable, their relationships, their families are valuable as well. You know, and so my job is to help individuals and families be the best that they can be, and to do so with a context of dignity and respect. So I don't really have a real experience with this, I don't think, that I can think of, but a person who's untrained in understanding and insensitive to family diversity will most likely be an ineffective therapist, okay? For example, just to say a soldier is coming to my office for asking for family counseling, and without any further questioning or concern, I just, book him for the first appointment that I have tomorrow. And, if I'm one of these people who's not sensitive to these kind of things and understanding what a family is, he could show up tomorrow with his blended family and an uncle, Uncle Joe, who is part of what they believe. They think, and they have Joe living in their home. Joe is a part of the family, and Joe shows up for the family counseling. If I were to say, Joe, can you just wait outside the family room while I do some family counseling in here? That would just totally torpedo the relationship, the therapeutic relationship. It would totally not be good for the family therapy, and they'd probably storm off in anger. I know this is kind of an extreme example, but I think those kind of things subtly happen when people don't really think about, hey, what is this family really about, and could it be something bigger than what I even imagined or thought? Well, first of all, I'm going to maintain my personal values, which is informed and formed through my spiritual and religious values, okay? So there's been no greater way of dealing with my own biases and my own stereotypes and my own silliness than being subject to a system of ethics that has changed me from the brutish, inconsiderate fool to a compassionate, respectful provider of care. So that's my first thing that I'm going to do. And then secondly, I'll seek opportunities for continuing education on issues of diversity, especially in terms of therapy and pastoral care. So as a soldier in the Army, fortunately we have a monthly emphasis on diversity issues, and we also have annual training specifically geared toward diversity in pastoral care by our trained leadership. So I have a lot. I'm very fortunate, and I'm also very fortunate to have perhaps a unique experience being in the Army, which is this place where people from all kinds of cultures and backgrounds, and it's just amazing that come in and you're interacting with them on a daily basis. So you have no chance but to be exposed to diverse issues and diverse ways of thinking and diverse behaviors and diverse people.